He just wanted to dig some potato juice underground, but unexpectedly, he unearthed a mountain of gold. He was so excited that he couldn't speak, because this mountain of gold was enough for him to live comfortably for the rest of his life. However, in this war-torn era, it was impossible to move the whole mountain of gold away. So he quickly used the Iron Island to knock off a bag of small pieces of gold, intending to transport this bag of gold home first. Little did he know that this bag of gold would lead to his utter destruction. The very next day, as he was returning home with the gold, he encountered a group of defeated Indo-Chinese soldiers who had just looted a nearby village and captured all the women. One soldier raised his gun, intending to kill the old man as well, but was stopped by his superior officer. The officer believed it was unnecessary to waste bullets because his own troops were behind him at this moment. The old man just wanted to get home as soon as possible, but he hadn't gone far when he encountered a group of soldiers behind him. The soldiers stopped him without saying a word because they had found the old man's gold panning tools on his horse. So they searched the old man and soon found a bag of gold on his horse. Realizing that a tough battle was about to begin, the old man quickly told his dog to hide. The soldiers thought the gold was already gone, but little did they know that the old man had been completely enraged. The next second, this sudden turn of events terrified the other soldiers, who were momentarily at a loss. They were thinking of firing their guns, but before they could even raise their weapons, the old man used his agility to send them flying. The officer in charge of the tank ahead, hearing the gunfire behind him, immediately realized something was wrong and rushed back to check the situation. When they saw his subordinate clutching a gold nugget, they realized the old man had a lot of gold on him. So, wanting to seize the gold for themselves, they didn't hesitate and gave chase in their tank. To survive, the old man had no choice but to flee on horseback. But the next second, 2 shells exploded, followed by a barrage of bullets coming from behind. However, seeing the old man running further and further away, the officer suddenly ordered a halt to the pursuit, because ahead lay a minefield they had recently laid. Sure enough, the old man was blown into the air the next second. Fortunately, the warhorse shielded him from all the damage. Seeing the sperm he had collected scattered all over the ground, the old man, who had survived the ordeal, had no choice but to bend down and pick it up. But at this moment, the officer also caught up. Upon seeing the ground covered with gold, the officer instantly conceived the idea of poisoning the gold and immediately ordered his men to raise their guns and kill the old man. But just then, the old man suddenly picked up a stone from the ground and threw it directly at a wall mine. As the town's protective barrier filled the air, the officer immediately ordered his men to open fire on the old man. However, the old man wasn't stupid. He quickly raised his sturdy shield and fired. After a few shots, the officer realized something was wrong and quickly ordered a halt to fire, then sent 2 soldiers to investigate. Unexpectedly, the next second, after the smoke completely dissipated, the old man was nowhere to be found. Only a dog tag was found on the ground. It was only then that the officer learned about the old man's past. It turned out that the old man had been a top-notch special forces soldier who had single-handedly killed more than 300 enemies. Everyone called him the Immortal Warrior, but the officer didn't care about all that. All he could see were the gold. Avoid stepping on landmines. He then had 2 women stand in front of the tank to look out. At this time, the old man's body and calves were also heavily wounded. If he didn't get treatment in time, he would definitely die on the way to escape. He had no choice but to take out his dagger and dig out the bullets. He then bandaged the wounds and finally fell into a deep sleep. Soon the enemy caught up in noise tanks. When he was awakened by the piercing engine, he quickly hid under a truck. However, the military would soon discover him. So, in order to cover his scent, he had to slash open the truck's fuel tank. The old man used the smell of gasoline to mask his own odor. But despite this, the army still noticed something was wrong and stopped advancing. Seeing that he was about to be discovered, the old man quickly ran to a riverbank, but he was also shot in the calf. Seeing the old man desperately running away, they simply released the military dogs. However, at this moment, the old man suddenly picked up a match and set his clothes on fire. Taking advantage of the military dogs not daring to approach him, he jumped into the icy river. The officer saw this scene but did not panic because he guessed that the old man would definitely climb up and light the fire. Sure enough, after more than 10 minutes, the old man did surface and breathe air. Upon seeing this, the soldier immediately opened fire. After seeing some bloodstains on the water, the officer assumed the old man had been killed and immediately ordered a soldier to go into the water to check. Little did he know that the old man was just waiting for them to be killed. The next second, the old man slashed the soldier with a knife and sucked all the oxygen out of his lungs. Seeing the red splashes on the water, the 2 companions on the boat were instantly terrified and trembled. But the officer didn't care about that and ordered one of them to go into the water again as expected. The remaining soldier, a strong man, quickly rowed away in a small boat. However, his superior ordered him to be taken away. Unexpectedly, the boat began to move on its own. It turned out the old man had used the boat to escape to the opposite bank. This enraged the soldier, who immediately set up a machine gun and moved it towards the old man. But the old man was prepared. Carrying the soldier's corpse, he began to advance. The soldiers fought for a long time but couldn't hit him. In the end, they could only watch helplessly as the old man disappeared completely from the smoke like a ghost. The old man, carrying a bag of gold, had barely escaped death. But when he returned home, he was stunned. He found that the entire village had turned into a sea of fire. Clearly, his hometown had been attacked by invaders. But his gunshot wounds left him no time to think. He had no choice but to hide in some ruins to rest. But just then, his beloved dog suddenly started barking. The excited old man quickly ran out to check and found that his dog had a bomb strapped to its body. He was so frightened that he quickly threw the bomb away. But the powerful shockwave still blasted him away. Before he could react, those wicked spies caught up, snatched his bag of gold, and without a word, strangled him, dropping him onto an advertising billboard. They thought the old man wouldn't survive, but to their utter surprise, as they walked away, the old man slowly regained his senses. He even tried to reduce the strain on his neck by positioning the wound on his leg against the steel bars of the billboard, so he wouldn't be strangled. And so, the old man lived a night of agonizing suffering. As a plane sped past, the rope slipped down due to the shock. Just then, two pilots who came to the gas station to refuel spotted the old man. They initially thought he was dead, but the next second, another pilot, hearing the commotion, rushed over, only to be knocked unconscious by the old man with a brick. Seeing that one of the pilots on the ground seemed to have regained consciousness, the old man initially intended to shoot him, but upon seeing the plane parked not far away, he suddenly thought of a better way to get revenge. So he quickly treated his own gunshot wound and stitched it up with wire. This scene stunned the pilots. And then came the moment for the old man's formal revenge. Sure enough, when the pursuing Soviet soldiers caught up, a plane blocked their path. The pilot inside was motionless, but strangely, the rope around his neck was the same one that had been used to suspend the old man. Realizing the old man had come for revenge, the officer immediately ordered the soldiers to retreat, unaware that the old man had already crawled under their vehicle. The next second, the old man killed one of the soldiers. Then, the old man climbed into the carriage and distributed weapons to the women captured. Driver, unaware of any danger, was suddenly struck from above by a steel knife. Then a woman climbed into the cab. As the truck pulled up next to another truck, the old man yanked down the tarpaulin on the truck, and the entire truckload of soldiers was riddled with bullets. When he learned that his men were almost all gone, the officer immediately ordered them to speed up, but it was too late. The old man had already climbed onto their tank. Hearing a knock on the gate, the driver slammed on the brakes, throwing the old man off the tank. He then rushed out and opened fire on the old man, but the old man had already run to the back of the truck. Before the soldiers could react, the old man slipped behind them and carried them away. Finally, the old man grabbed another soldier and threw him off the tank. Seeing this, the officer ordered the driver to move forward immediately. The old man did not continue to chase the tank because two soldiers quickly caught up from behind. However, the old man simply raised his head, instantly frightening the two soldiers into abandoning their motorcycles and fleeing for their lives. Second, several women came up from behind. Without saying a word, beat the soldier to death. The officer originally intended to take the gold-bearing officer away, but when he and his men arrived at the street location, he suddenly raised his gun and shot his men. He thought he could leave safely with the pilot, but at that moment, the old man who had lost the gold-bearing officer caught up on a motorcycle and opened fire on them. He even drove his motorcycle directly towards the plane. Was he trying to have a close encounter with the plane? The next second, the old man threw away his weapon and picked up an iron bar. Unexpectedly, the old man managed to attach himself to the bottom of the plane with a steel sword and flew with them to an altitude of 10,000 meters. However, the sword quickly detached, in a critical moment. He luckily slammed the island's tip against the tail of the plane, grabbing the tires tightly. As the tail of the plane made a sound, the Nazi officer rushed over to check the situation. The next second, the old man threw off the iron island and charged at the officer, engaging in a life-or-death struggle. However, the old man was already covered in wounds and was no match for the officer. Still refused to give up. With no other option, the officer wrapped a belt around his hand, preparing to finish off the old man completely. Even though the old man was covered in blood, he never closed his eyes. Instead, he quietly waited for the perfect opportunity. Sure enough, just as the officer came over again, the old man hooked the hook onto a missile. The next second, the officer fell to the ground along with the missile. After resolving the immediate problem, the plane began to show signs of life. It turned out that during the strafing, the pilot had unfortunately been hit by a bullet and was dead. Seeing the plane stop and fall to the ground, the old man quickly picked up his bag of gold and ran to the rear of the cabin. He then used a rope to secure himself to the wall. The next second, the plane stopped and crashed into a swamp. After everything calmed down, the old man slowly climbed out of the swamp, finally picked up his hoe, carried the bag of gold, and went to town, where he exchanged all the gold for banknotes. The film ends here. Immortal Warrior tells the story of a battlefield veteran who single-handedly fights against a group of Nazi soldiers and successfully retrieves the stolen gold. This film is not a hero movie because there is no redemption, no carelessness, no tears, only a rusty iron brush, a body full of unhealable wounds, and a determination to hold on even in the face of death. It reminds us that what is yours will not escape, and what is not yours cannot be kept. Imagine if the whole world took away what was yours. Could you risk your life to take it back? Therefore, this film is not about plot, but about the last line of defense of humanity.